Ashley from the Energy Boutique with your Ascension and energy forecast for Sunday, March 27th to Saturday, April 2nd. So let's talk about last week. Well, last week we finished the old calendar. We entered into the new calendar with that equinox energy, giving us a reset between light and dark, day and night, masculine and feminine, ushering in Aries season, the very first season of the brand new calendar, the first sign of the zodiac, the fire element that many of us been lacking for a very long time. There was definitely a shift. There was definitely evidence of that on the Schumann Resonance. Was this the event? No, but it was a contributing factor, a training event, if you will, to the major solar event that, of course, all of this Ascension stuff is aiming towards. We had the last quarter moon in Capricorn that definitely put the weight back on our shoulders, confused us to all hell on what it is that we need to be doing. Many of us really honestly thought that coming into the new calendar, the new Aries season, that the finger snaps were going to happen, clarity was going to be downloaded, we were going to have a path, we were going to get to work. What many of us fail to understand is we're still very much under the influence of not only the Piscean energy up until the new moon, but the full moon in Virgo energy up until this new moon in Aries that we're going to talk about here in a second. This last week was wrapping up the life lessons of Mercury being in Pisces. Mercury is now in Aries energy as of the 27th. This is what we talked about last week that will provide us with a little bit of clarity, with a little bit more of a direct, straightforward idea on what it is that we want to happen, what it is that we want to see in our lives. And we are definitely going to be feeling the shift as we move through this week. Now, we had several solar flares, solar situations, lots of activity, lots of CMEs that took place last week. Again, very evident on the Schumann Resonance. For many of us, definitely felt that energy, felt that shift. It is very important to understand that the vibration and the frequency of Mother Earth as she ascends affects us. I have talked about this multiple times, but as many of you know, I was kind of restricted in what it is that I can talk about in these forecasts because of my crappy internet. I'm happy to report, we'll talk about this in just a second as well, but my circumstances have changed, so I am going to be working on a whole video that will summarize this whole ascension process, why it's important, how we're connected to the earth, and why it is that we are going through this pain and this struggle to clean up the carbon-based body system of our physical selves in order to align with the crystalline system of our light bodies. So stay tuned for that. So what do we got going on this week? Well, this week, like I said, Mercury is moving out of Pisces and moving into Aries. We do have a lot of mental imagery, mental memories, mental narratives, mental thought processes that we have to clean up. And Mercury in Aries is going to help us do that. Of course, Aries is a fire energy going to help kind of burn all of the old, all of the heavy, all of the weighted thoughts and narratives and memories and ideas off of us. But this is going to be a transformational week. Why? Because we're not technically getting the party started for this new calendar until the new moon that we will be having on the 1st. And of course, we're wrapping up March this week. We are preparing to move into April that comes with a different vibration, a different frequency, a different set of life lessons. And as you've been discovering with me, when we shift out of one sign into the other, when we shift from one month to the other, when we are ending one energy, moving into another, there's always this pressurized system right before the shift. Does it feel good? No. Is it necessary? Absolutely yes. This week we have Neptune sextiling the true node. This is a very, very interesting, very transformative, highly spiritual, very intense growth that we are about to take, not only in our understanding, not only in our heart space, not only in our soul and energetic body, but in our physical realm. This is like a spiritual aha moment that shifts us into a totally different dimension of understanding the comings and goings, the struggles, the obstacles, the challenges, the hardships that we've had to go through in order to get to this particular point. So the big event that is happening this week, of course, is cutting the cord between March and entering into April. But we have a couple of notable aspects that I think I wanted to talk about, because this week is about cleansing, releasing, purging. And I know you're probably rolling your eyes saying, oh my God, that's all we're doing. Like, when does this stuff end? Well, may I remind you that this is an ongoing process for the lifetime of our egoic identities. As long as we are alive, as long as we are in these bodies, we will have lots to purge. Why? Because our egoic identity has created a lot of shadow karma, both in this lifetime and in previous incarnations. That is what it is to be an earth being, is to experience the darker thoughts and emotions that our higher selves, our source selves that only know unconditional love. That is why we come to earth school. That is why we come to the messiness. That is why we come to the polarized, dualistic form of this 3D physical and materialistic reality, to hash out the messy parts, to see how powerful we actually are, because we're all alchemists. We just have forgotten our power, forgotten our experience and knowledge from previous incarnations. We are here to tap into remembering who it is that we are, working through the painful process of dealing with the shadow elements that gets created as a human being in order to lighten the load of our karma, of our experience, of our emotions, of our mental plane, in order to free us, to liberate us, to lighten the load for us to embody the energetic vibration that is soul self, that is source self. So this week we have these aspects taking place as we build towards the new moon, which, by the way, having a new moon on the very first day of a brand new month doesn't happen very often. And when it does, you best believe that this is a scripted event in order to get shit done. And we are definitely moving into a time after this new moon takes place and we start seeing that glimmer of the light from the moon in the sky after the new moon takes place. That is our green light go. We are going to start seeing things happen very quickly. We are going to start seeing the movement in our mental plane, in our heart space, in our physical bodies, in the circumstances of our lives move very quickly. That's why it has been essential for us over the last month or so to be paused, to take rest, to kind of formulate an inventory, a stock, and a plan within ourselves, reviewing our emotions, reviewing our thoughts, reviewing the connections of the divinely painful scripted of events of our past in order to recognize where it is that we are being prepared, not only for this moment, but for our future moments that are to come. So the notable aspects are here to cleanse us, here to purge, here to release the fragmented energies that we are attached to. Aries season is about the ego. It's about the identity, very rooted in who it is that we are. And now that we've had ego deaths and losses and, identity crises over the last couple of months of having elements removed from our lives, it has left us in a situation of who are we now? Who are we without the pain? Who are we without the relationship, without the job? Who are we without our identity? Now, moving into the brand new calendar, we spend the very first quadrant of the calendar in the early signs of the zodiac to rebuild our egoic identity in a better way, in a stronger way, more aligned with allowing our higher self to fine tune our perception of our experiences, recognizing the lower vibrational parts of us that had to be purged, detached from, in order for us to replace them with a better way of going through life. A better way of seeing ourselves, treating ourselves, interacting with the world around us. So this week, as we approach the new moon, just kind of visualize that we are kind of being blasted with this fire energy that is going to burn off the fragments of our egoic identity that are still very much attached to us and weighing us down and preventing us from being the free, light, energetic body that we are destined to be. One of these notable aspects has to do with Venus, Saturn, and Mars. And you may remember that Venus, the feminine divine, Mars, the masculine divine, came together under the full moon in Leo back in February on the 16th. They held hands as Venus had come out of her retrograde. She was not up to par. She needed the masculine energy to lead. Mars rose to that occasion. They held hands coming into March. Then they started separating. Then Venus moved ahead of Mars, the feminine divine energy. She awakened. She awakened to a new truth. She awakened to a new value. She recognized and remembered all of the ego shedding that she had to go through at the very late ladder of 2021 coming into 2022. She was retrograde in Capricorn. She did a dance with the god of the underworld, Pluto himself, that totally transformed her perception of herself, of her actions, of what it is that she needed to change in this physical reality. It took her up until March to get to her fullest power. She allowed the masculine energy, Mars, to lead her into a brand new cycle. And then we woke up. And then she started to lead. We moved into Aquarian energy, both of them dead. We moved into Aquarian energy. She started moving off into her own lane. She started dancing to the beat of her own drum. She became emotionally detached to act as the observer to see where it is in her current circumstances. She needed to make the changes that she knows that she had to make. She reflected back to her retrograde. She got illuminated to all of these dark parts of herself that have kept her in a holding pattern from truly embodying her true highest form of self. And now she is ready to make the move. So she's been pulling away from Mars. But here's the thing. The more she pulls away from Mars, the closer to Saturn she gets, the Lord of Karma. This week, Venus meets up with Saturn, the Lord of Karma, who is focused on the roles and responsibilities that we have to leave behind in our old lives in order to create the space and have the energy for the new roles and responsibilities in our new life that will help us build the foundation, the groundwork, the framework possible and needed in order for us to actually manifest the dream, the vision, the kind of reality that we would be happy to be living. This is going to be a big deal. And then, of course, we move into the new moon energy. Then we get ignited under the new moon. Then we hit the ground running. Then we move into this April energy that is concentrated on the lesson of 4. What do we know about the number 4? The 4 is the foundation that we have to build here within ourselves in our physical realm in order for the ultimate dream house to be built. We've been using this house analogy since we came into this new year. Again, I'll remind you, go back to the 2022 energy forecast. There's 4 parts covering each and every single month throughout this year, what we can expect. And we use the analogy of building our dream house. You cannot build a dream house on a crappy ass foundation with cracks, where it's unleveled, where there's water running through it. You have to make sure that that foundation is strong enough, is sturdy enough in order to house this dream house that we are so impatiently waiting to build. So here's where we're at. We're coming into a very, very interesting week of energies. So before I jump into the Ascension symptoms, let's do a little bit of story time. I guarantee you this is going to be interesting. Of course, I like to share a little bit of my experience and connect it to the astrology and connect it to the worldly events so that we all know that we're not into this by ourselves. We're in this together. And I want to show a little bit of, what is the word? Determination, a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of what it is that we need to do to embody the life lessons thrown at us. I want to be as open and transparent as much as I'm comfortable with, in order to share with you how these astrological events, this energy, actually affects us in our real realities, in our waking days, what it is that we're supposed to do with it. So, in order to do that, I have to bring up last week. I want to thank you so much for the love, for the support, for the encouragement, for all of the positive, reinforcing, supportive messages that I received after last week's Ascension forecast. Many of you may know that I had a little bit of a breakdown. And as I talk about, you got to have a little bit of a breakdown before you have a big breakthrough. And that is exactly what happened to me last week. So in last week's Ascension forecast, I talked about how I had kind of reached my breaking point. I had another very tragic death and tragic loss take place in my life that literally broke my heart open in a way that I did not think was possible. It was very detrimental to me. It made me question the work that I do. It made me question my healing abilities, my connection to my higher self, to the divine. It made me question my soul contract. It made me question essentially everything about myself. Everything that I do, everything that I thought, everything that I felt, it literally shattered my current reality. And although I appreciate, all the love and all the condolences for that loss, it is very much appreciated. What this loss has taught me is, first of all, a lot. And I don't know how to summarize it other than a lot. So let me just start by saying that, yes, I was ready to throw it all away. And as y'all sat with me last Saturday, listening to me rant and rave about, the obligation that I feel to do what it is that I'm doing and how I wouldn't choose this for myself, many of you reminded me how powerful words actually are. And I 100% agree. And if I could go back and re-edit that, I probably wouldn't, because I was speaking authentically and rawly from a very broken place. And I think that that is needed. And I think it needs to be respected and honored. But I totally get where y'all are coming from. So let me rephrase this. I have a soul contract. I have an obligation to help raise the vibration and frequency of the collective here on Earth in order to prepare us for this shift into the new Earth, which is essentially a higher vibrational reality than what it is that our egoic identities, our carbon-based selves, have been living. Okay. Would I choose this for myself? I don't know. I think jury's still out on that. Essentially, I did choose this for myself because my higher self chose this for me. My ego identity, my human identity, has a lot of problems with it a lot of the time. But again, that is an ego problem, not a spiritual problem. Because if I was talking from my highest spiritual self, I would say, guess what? I signed up for this. I fought people in order to have this journey, to have this experience here on this earth plane at this time, in order to do my part to kind of selfishly rid myself of some karma. Because that's why we come back to Earth. That's why we come into different incarnations, to kind of right the wrongs of the past karma that we accumulated in previous lifetimes. So my higher self would say that, guess what? I'm in alignment. I'm doing exactly what it is that I came here for, and that my ego needs to stop whining about it, has to stop crying about it, has to stop looking at it as a punishment, and instead embody the fact that I am 100% aligned with my soul's mission, my soul's purpose. Okay, I know the difference. Forgive me, last week I was very much a broken human. I was very much in my ego self, brokenhearted, feeling like having this loss was another form of punishment, feeling like I was stuck here on this earthly realm, doing a job that I didn't desire to do. From a human perspective, I get it, I agree. From my higher self perspective, I do have edits to make, and hopefully I cleared that up. After the Ascension forecast went live last week, I had a beautiful opportunity to connect with, to sit with the sister of my friend who meant more to me than just the label of friend could ever mean to me. And as two brokenhearted humans, we came together to not only acknowledge our pain and suffering that our current egos were going through, but we were illuminated to the higher self of each of us. And as many of you know, I am able to connect with and to channel spirits, passed over spirits, deceased spirits. And my friend has been with me since his unconscious state. And many times as a healer, as a channeler, as a medium, whatever label you want to throw on it. Again, I hate labels. A lot of the time, I still think like I'm batshit crazy. I think that a lot of the information I get couldn't possibly be true, that I have to be making it up in my imagination, that this has to be me having these conversations with myself. Maybe this is the egoic part of the trauma that needs to believe that, I'm connecting with the spirit of my loved one in order to make me feel better about this human experience. But what happens is that when you sit down with another human being that can validate you for word, that what it is that you were channeling from the spirit being to be 100% factual truth, you begin to realize that you're not crazy, that you are divinely connected to a realm that most people will never understand. And I even have a hard time understanding it myself. What I know is that opportunity for me and his sister to sit and connect as a human, to connect as higher selves, higher beings, and to connect to the spirit of our loved one made it very real, made it very magical, made it very much a spiritual aha moment of change and of breakthrough for me. He is now showing me different abilities, different understandings, different perspectives that I didn't have even this time last week. This is a healing for not only the family, but for me as well, in my own personal journey, in my own development of my soul and spirit, of my gifts and abilities. It's not unusual. Again, when I first died and got brought back to life and realized that I had these abilities, my grandfather, who was freshly departed, let's say, he was the first spirit that I ever connected with, and he kind of showed me the ropes on what all this metaphysical, spirit energy work was all about. And so over the course of the last decade, any of the personal connections that I've had that I have lost to the spirit realm have been new guides, new people to show me the different realms of the spiritual realm that, of course, I know about, but that I get to learn more about through channeling through them. Of course, my aunt last year, who was struck very quickly, very intensely with a brain tumor that spent the last 3 months of her life in an unconscious limbo state between realms. She taught me a lot as well. And this is no different. My friend is now, in a way that I could have never imagined, showing me the ropes in a realm that I thought I was comfortable in understanding. And now I learned that there are different levels to even the very vast and open-mindedness of understanding that I previously had about the afterlife and about the spiritual realm. So much so that I am being pushed to share in different ways. I really feel I've been kind of haunted, if you will, quote unquote, by my guides, by the universal realms over the last decade plus to be writing a book. I've been fighting that tooth and nail. I really, like I said, I'm a private person. I have a lot of issues trying to share some of my experiences out in the world. But I feel like a book is probably going to be in the makings here very soon, if not from my personal life, from some of the stories that Spirit has taught me. And shown me the way of, and I think that some of those life lessons would be amazing to share with all of you. So what I will say is, yes, since the last week's Ascension forecast, I did break down and I did break through. And the reason why you're listening to this Ascension forecast at a new time on Saturday night instead of Friday night is because yesterday I was requested, my presence was requested to be a part of his memorial service. And that's really hard for me. Again, as many of you know, I live in the woods. I don't see many people. I don't go out much. for good reason. It's hard out there. Not only are humans hard to deal with, but the spirits attached to the humans can get overwhelming sometimes. And especially going to funerals and memorials, you best believe that it is a cray-cray place, both in this human realm and the spirit realm, for someone like myself to take part in. It's very overwhelming. It is 100% exhausting, and it is very hard to keep the boundaries up and to keep the sanity going through these types of experiences. But of course, there was nowhere else that I would have been. I'm not going to say that I would rather be, because nobody wants to go to those things, but it was 100% needed for me to be there. And for those of you asking, yes, spirits show up there, not only the spirit of the deceased person that we are trying to remember and celebrate, but their friends and the spirits of the people showing up. They're like, trust me, it is just an overlap of realms and frequencies and vibrations. Very, very hard. And as a person who can see both realms, it's also very hard for me to alchemize the pain of the humans, the peace of the spirits, and to not be consumed by either or of those vibrations. I find I carry a lot of guilt a lot of the times because I'm not nearly as brokenhearted as some of these individuals in their human experience are over the loss, over the passing of the physical form of the person, because of course I can see them, I can hear them. They live on with me in a different realm, and that's not something that everybody gets to experience. And although for the majority of this particular chapter of my life, I've considered it somewhat of a curse, I am learning the hard way, of course, that it is truly a certain type of blessing. So it is very hard to move through those types of celebrations of life, but I needed to be there. And of course, that took me away from being here with all you beautiful people on Friday nights like I usually am. So I wanted to thank you for your patience, for your understanding, for your love, for your support, for the beautiful messages that you sent me all over this past week in love and encouragement, boosting me up, going to battle with some of those ugly people that reared their ugly heads. But basically what I want to summarize is that last week's broken humanness of me really opened me up to the wholeness of the spirit of me. Again, a breakdown before the breakthrough. And although I spoke about the ugly people coming at me, not looking, not seeking for the lovely, beautiful people like yourself to shower me with compliments and blessings and well wishes, that was never my intention. But boy, let me tell you, you all really drove it home that love will always override hate. That light will always flood the darkness. I cannot tell you, I have goosebumps just trying to put into words the amount of love and support that I feel from you guys every single day. And last week was, I'm not going to say no different. It was exceptional. It was more abundant than ever. And I want to thank you so much for going to bat for me, for showing up for me, for encouraging me, and for basically being my power and being my strength when I didn't have it in my human body to embody those qualities and characteristics that I usually embody very easily. So in my brokenheartedness, in my fragmented human self, I want to thank you for being the strength, the spiritual glue, the love glue that I needed in order to put myself back together in a better way. And again, this plays into and how I want to share this with you is this is not just about me. In your own life, I want you to take a look at where it is that you have been shattered, where it is that you've been broken, where it is that you've gone through an egoic death, so to speak, where it is that you've had to break down. Maybe you haven't had your breakthrough yet, but I can tell you it's coming. We're in a brand new calendar. We're in Aries season. We are rebuilding our egos. We are rebuilding our identities. We are embodying the power of the fire of the flame. We are being re-sparked, reborn. And if you are still in this very confusing adjustment state of not knowing what your path is, not knowing if you are going to feel good, not knowing when it is that you're going to be reborn, hold tight, because the new moon in Aries is going to illuminate that for all of us. So just know that we all need to go off from time to time. We all need to embody the brokenness of our human self in order to align with the power of the breakthrough that happens in our spirit, in our soul, in our growth, in our evolution, because we are spiritual warriors of light. And sometimes we need our human ego, our reality, our circumstances here in this materialistic realm beat to a freaking snot in order for us to rise above. And of course, we do that by finding a new truth, by finding a new strength, by finding a new direction, by finding a new meaning, by finding a new purpose. And although I'm still kind of shaky, I still have kind of sea legs on this little adjustment period that I'm currently personally going through, what I know to be true is that those legs will strengthen. And I have 100% confidence that your legs, your hope, your faith, your direction, your clarity, your ego self will find a brand new strength as well, as long as you channel in your higher self and let the divine magical energy of this cosmos, of the spiritual realm that we all originate from, to be the lead, to be the starring role of how it is that we recreate our physical selves to be in alignment with our highest soul self. Because of course we are using these physical bodies as a vessel to move through the earthly experiences of polarized dynamics, of pain, of suffering, of darkness, in order to elude us to the healing, love, and light that our soul has originated from. That's the mission. That's what we're here for. So as if that experience wasn't profound enough for me last week, I was really starting to put the pieces together on, well, what am I supposed to do from here? As you kind of learned last week, I was very uncertain about the services that I want to offer and how to help people and all this kerfuffle. I still don't know that I actually know what I want to do, but I was sitting here and thinking, I feel like I need to do things differently. I feel like I have more to offer than just these one-on-one sessions, like just these forecasts. And I don't know what that is yet. I'm not sure how that's going to manifest, but I thought to myself, I just don't feel like I'm doing quote unquote enough. I don't feel like I'm fulfilling my mission, my purpose, if you will. And I know that I was doing it begrudgingly before, and now I'm trying to have a different attitude about it. But I was sitting here and I was like, you know what? I need to speak out to the universe right now, to the cosmos. And I need to ask for support, and I need to ask for guidance, and I need to ask for clarity, and I need to know how and how to bring things to life and what I should be focused on. So here last week, again, that healing session with my friend's sister, it had taken me far, but there was definitely a couple of tough days. And then I was sitting here. It was a very dark weather week where I live. Very dark and dingy. Definitely didn't add to the new calendar, to the new spark, to the new flame, to the new life that I was hoping for would actually root in and manifest last week. And under the full moon in Virgo, I had this beautiful epiphany where, of course, this is where the last week's Ascension forecast came out, that I had to do more healing work, that I had to reorganize, restructure. And the universe works in some very mysterious ways, because let me tell you, for those of you that have been with me for a long time, y'all know that I have some pretty crappy internet. Y'all might have known that back in October, I put in to see whether or not I was even in an area eligible for Starlink. And let me tell you, the cosmos blessed me last week, because Starlink showed up on my doorstep. And at that point in time, I felt like a weight had been lifted, like the possibilities of the future were finally within reach. And in that moment was the first time all week, especially since my friend had passed away, that the skies had opened and that this beautiful sunlight beam shone down on this beautiful Starlink box that sat upon my doorstep. Now, when I say game changer, I mean game changer. Just to give y'all a little bit of a perspective, the daily forecast that I put out, the energy forecast that I put out, they're roughly about 15 minutes, on average 15 minutes. That took about 2 hours with my old internet. And 2 hours that I couldn't go on any other device, that I literally had to let the old stanky ass internet do its thing untouched, uninterrupted in order for it to even have a chance to upload. Y'all, took me less than 2 minutes to upload a 15-minute video with the Starlink. When I say game changer, I freaking mean game changer. This changes the realm of possibility on what I can do and what I can offer to the world. Yes, I tested out that video chat. Yes, that is a thing of the possibilities, the realm of the possibilities of the future. I just have to get my self-confidence up to actually appear on screen in live freaking time. That's going to be an inner battle for me. But it is a possibility. The courses that I have already prepared that I haven't uploaded because I am not sitting in a parking lot for 12 hours in order to do so, that can now move forward. Little types of videos on how-tos, talking about Ascension, talking about the cycles, talking about the energy, talking about signs and symbols and answering y'all questions. This is a possibility for me now. And I'm so freaking overwhelmed with the possibilities that I don't know where to start. I'm actually stuck in a state of paralysis thinking of all of these possibilities coming through. And let me tell you, that is both Mercury in Pisces and Mercury about to move in Aries kind of energy. I'm tapping into dreams. I'm tapping into possibilities. I'm tapping into my creative flow. Pisces energy. They're coming in quick. They're coming in hot. They're coming in heavy. They're coming in bold. They're coming in straightforward. They're coming in direct. Aries energy. Mental plane. About to pop off and explode. So let me just say a little bit of a shout out to Elon Musk. Who cares what you think of him personally? Doesn't matter. Right now, he has connected me to the world, to the universe, to the realm of possibilities on where it is that I can take my gifts, my whatever you want to call it, to the next level, to share, to connect with y'all in a different way, to expand the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience that I have had trapped up in me, kept to myself for far too long. Now I got to figure out how to get it out of me in the most organized and effective way possible to share it with y'all. So I'm super pumped, super excited. Let's give a little woohoo to technology, okay? Because we're definitely doing things. We're definitely moving on. So I know that was a very long-winded story, but I appreciate you sitting through it. Hopefully you pulled something out of that. But now we have to talk about the Ascension symptoms that we're going to have to expect for this week. Now, last week, there's a lot of overriding or overlapping symptoms. So yeah, we're still on a mission to really perfect energy management. Yes, we're still going to be thirsty. Yes, we need to fuel our bodies. Yes, there are intense fluctuations happening in our headspace, in our physical bodies, in our circumstances. We just have to expect that. We're moving through Aries season. We're in the very beginnings of a brand new calendar. There's a lot going on, but this week specifically is the overlap between letting the old self go, purging that, detaching that, and being prepared, being cleansed, clean slate for the get up and go that we're going to experience when the new moon in Aries hits. Because the very first thing that's taking place for us this week is this shift with Mercury moving into Aries, what we have to expect is a lot of head pressure. Now, many of us are having headaches. We feel like, again, we're in the airplane. There's a lot of head pressure. Our ears are popping. Many of us getting that very debilitating ear ringing, may I say, that is definitely creating interruptions in our visual patterns as well. Like it's not even ringing at this point. It's like a piercing, stabbing siren sound coming in from other dimensions that just make you lose your train of thought and make you stop what you're doing and make you even grasp your head and just grit your teeth and close your eyes and just try to ride it through. That's likely going to continue to happen. Again, these piercing sounds coming into our headspace, into our ears, are downloads. And they're downloads, they're light codes coming in from the higher realms, from your higher self that you might not be able to make sense of yet, but it's almost like a data package, right? Like you get this data package in, it is going to help to the overall operating system, but it might not be used just yet. You're going to have to open a new app in order to see where this data package is actually contributing to the overall performance of your operating system. And what we kind of have to consider is that, you know, the ear ringing in our physical body is a vibratory recognition and realization that our light body is receiving a new upgrade, if you will. Just think of yourself as an operating system. It's easier to deal with that way. But the inner head pressure, the ear ringing, is connected to the third eye, which of course is smack dab in the middle of your forehead, right? That's your third eye. This is going to have some serious implications on your sinuses, okay? Many of us are moving into allergy season, which, you know, your human form can blame allergy season on for the headaches, for the stuffiness, for the running nose, for the sneezing, whatever. Or you can just kind of blend the concept that your higher self, your intuition knows that we're going through some 3D activations this week, that we are upgrading our 3D operating system, and that causes some sinus issues. Again, adding to the pressure in our head, the sensitivity behind our eyes. We're seeing things differently. We're hearing things differently. We're perceiving things differently because Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, moving into Aries, has a brand new lease on life, a brand new perspective. We are looking things at a brand new way. And let me just say that the head pressure is going to be a lot to handle a lot of the time, especially when we see the indications coming in from the solar flares, from the CMEs that are popping off from the sun right now. We can expect that when that space weather app tells us that the KP ratio is going up, the KP numbers are going up, that we're in the yellow, we're in the red, that the ascension symptoms that we're feeling in our physical body, which are just indicators that our energetic body is being triggered and activated, that when they're on their way up, we're feeling the intense pressure of our ascension symptoms on the way up as well. I want to prepare you, though, for blackouts. Now, does this mean blackout in consciousness? Well, maybe. Does this mean blackout in your visual perception? Probably. Does this mean blackouts in your auditory perceptions? 100%. So the ringing of the ears normally deafens our audio perceptions of our physical environment, but the piercing, the ringing of the ears becomes so strong this week that we could see disruption in our visual pattern at the same time of receiving those light codes. We could see green spots, we could see black spots, we might actually just see a black screen altogether. Again, may I remind you, you are a computer. You are an operating system, and sometimes when we are going through software upgrades, we do see that black screen. And what does that black screen do? It creates a whole hell of a lot of fear and terror in us. Is our computer crashing? Oh my goodness. When it's happening into our physical body. Are we having a stroke? Am I going to see again? Am I going blind? What is happening here? It can create fear. My intention for these forecasts is to plant the seed of knowledge in your brain, so that when these situations happen in the physical realm, that there will be this far off, high-pitched, little Marley sounding voice in your head that says, hey, don't freak out. It's just the ascension symptoms. That's what I would hope for you. Now, you might have to revisit these ascension symptoms every day or every second day or a couple times a week to validate for you that your physical experiences are energetic repercussions of the software upgrade that your higher self, your soul, body, your energetic vibrational frequency and body is going through. By all means, listen to your heart's content. Anything to minimize the fear. We do not want fear. Fear vibrates at a vibration and frequency that the dark force agenda feeds off of. That's why it's super important to stay out of the fear. And now that I have Starlink, now that I'm connected to the world, now that it's possible for me to be putting videos out, I will be putting out a video on all the different emotions, what vibration and frequency they all orient at, where it affects in the physical body, and why the shadow work. Shadow work is dealing with the heavier vibrations and frequencies that get stuck in our cellular memory in our physical bodies, why it's so important to do that work. Because when we break up those energy blockages, when we raise the vibration and frequency out of fear, out of pain, out of suffering, and open it up to another emotion that vibrates at a higher frequency than fear does, then we disconnect from the dark force agenda and we embody more light. That is a very, very quick version of the video that I will be putting out. Stay tuned for that. Again, I have a lot of ideas coming into my head, but that is definitely where I think we're going to start, because I think a lot of people don't understand Ascension, don't understand Ascension symptoms, don't understand that we're energetic bodies, don't understand emotions, don't understand vibrations and frequencies and how it all connects. So I feel like that would be a good place to start. But I want you to prepare for blackouts, okay? Maybe the blackout happens because you lost track of time. Maybe you don't have any memory for what you just did for the last 4 hours. Maybe, like I said, it actually does impact what it is that you're visually able to see or actually able to hear using your physical senses. Either way, this is a heads up, okay? Record, your internal Marley voice to remind you at these times that this is just an Ascension symptom. It is nothing to fear. This too shall pass. But we have a lot of fire running through us that, again, we haven't had in a long time. And again, may I remind you that the line between passion and anger is very, very thin. Because Mercury is moving into Aries. Again, if you haven't listened to that astro forecast, please go ahead and do that. That'll give you a much deeper understanding on how Mercury being in Aries is both going to help us and set us up for success and put us in a position where we could create some drama, dive into those darker force energies. And of course, that is just a cautionary note so that you can avoid those situations at all possible. But Mercury in Aries got a lot of truth to speak, got a lot of ideas, got a lot of emotions that we got to unleash, that we got to get out of our head space, that we got to get out of our heart space. Many times that comes in the form of anger. Many times we think it's coming from a form of passion because we're so fired up, we're so passionate about this idea, about this realization, about what we want to do. And when we start talking, it comes out as anger. And of course, Mercury in Aries is notorious for confrontation, for arguments, because we're very insensitive to other people's thoughts and feelings and how it is that they're going to receive ours. And so, we can set ourselves up for some miscommunications, for some very hurtful exchanges. And at the end of the day, what I'm going to say to you, speak your truth, even if it hurts other people's feelings. I mean, be kind about it. Try to be nice about it. But if it is actually your truth and you're speaking from a heart-led place, there's no need to keep it in. That's just going to hurt you. It's going to harm you. It's going to create an energy blockage in you. What I want for you is to speak your truth, even if it hurts you, even if it hurts other people. Now, we do have to filter that anger because we do not want it to become rage. This Aries energy being in a fire season, we are very rageful. We can go from 0 to 60 in 30 seconds and back again and then totally move on while people are still in a state of paralysis from receiving the wrath that is us. And again, we might think that we're doing it from a passionate form, but it comes across as very straightforward, very blunt, very anger filled. So we want to be a little bit caution about that. Our impulsivity because of this fire energy is just raging. We got ants in our pants. We're restless. The problem with that is that we currently lack a direction. We currently lack a strategic and calculated plan on how to move forward. And when you have energy built up, pent up aggression, fired up passion, with no place to put it, no outlet for it to actually be healthily channeled into, what you get is you get frustration, you get anger, you get anxiety, you get shaking, you get tremors, you get unfocused, undirected energy that just wants to explode. It wants to get out of your body. Aries season is good for exercise because the energy that we can't seem to focus and direct in a healthy way by being creative and taking control and actually bringing elements to life because we're confused at the moment on what that actually looks like, should be channeled in a form of exercise. Exhaust your physical body so that the energy that you're holding in your physical body doesn't rage out, hulk out, and create a assload of problems that none of us need right now. So, anxiety is going to peak, especially because we're approaching this new moon. We're in the dark phase of the moon. Come Wednesday, things are going to get a little bit tricky. We're definitely going to be reminded, also considering the moon has to go through Pisces and remind us of all the pain and suffering and the hurt and the loss and the death that Pisces season brought to us in the old calendar, in order to clean that out, have that burnt off, have us detach and totally cleanse from that before we move into the moon in Aries that is setting us up for the new moon, which is the dark phase of the moon, which means there's no light in the sky, which means we have to sit with ourselves. We have to really orient our eyes, our sensory perceptions to the darkness, to the darker part of ourselves, acknowledging what it is that we never want to experience again, we never want to feel again, we never want to think about again, the parts of ourselves that we never want to embody again, in order for us to create a framework on what it is that we intend for ourselves, because that's what happens with the new moon, is that we get to plant seeds of new intentions for this new cycle to actually gift us the opportunity to embody. But in order to figure out what it is that we want, we 100% have to sit in, acknowledge, and integrate what it is that we don't want. So like midweek, this week is going to be tough. Let me tell you, Monday is going to be hella emotional. We're going to be so detached from our reality and our emotions that we literally feel like we're never going to find our way back. Then when the moon moves into Pisces, we have to rehash, like I said, all of the pain, all the suffering, all the death and release and purge that we had to go through Pisces season that, we just kind of felt relief that we were away from. The moon in Pisces is going to remind us of that, bring it all up so that we can burn it off when the moon moves into Aries, and that we can sit in the darkness, the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves, figure out what it is that we never want to experience again, so that we can create a framework on what it is that we do want to experience. And of course, that's what the new moon in Aries is going to provide us with. There's some magical healing energies coming with this new moon in Aries. I got to get my ass together and kind of put the new moon guide together, and definitely encourage you all to watch out for when that is released, because what better way to start off a brand new calendar than to get in alignment with that new moon in Aries. So yeah, we have anxiety, we have restlessness, we have shaking of our limbs, especially of our legs, because as you know, we trap the fear in our kneecaps. We trap the past pain, the past abandonment and rejection of our actions from past experiences in our ankles. That's why we have shaky sea legs. Again, in Pisces season, we were treading water, we seen land, we swam to land. We moved into Aries season, we hit land, we got to land, we started running, and now our legs are technically not strong enough to keep us going, but we're going anyways, because we're sure as hell not going back in that water. And this week will be an emotional and mental struggle of having to face our time, our experiences out in the middle of that ocean, unsure of when we were ever going to see land again, and really kind of reflect over that so that we can acknowledge that experience, that process, and we can burn it off under the new moon in Aries so that we can get the party started later next week. We have to understand that the fuel still needs to be regulated. Our energy management still needs to be regulated. Many of us having bouts of nausea, of being absolutely starving, eating all that you can get your hands on, and then feeling like you're going to puke it back up. And some of us are puking it back up. Many of us have had a lot of bowel situations, a whole lot of detox, cluster Fs, if you will. May I remind you that our body system has been greatly affected, greatly inflamed. We went back to Pisces season. Pisces season needed to reactivate old health conditions. And if you have any kind of health condition that is connected to the nervous system, then you are definitely feeling a flare up right now. We moved out of that bogged down, slow, inflamed water weight energy to fire, right? What does fire feel like in the body? Well, it sure as hell don't feel good, I'll tell you that. And so we've had these activations of old conditions hold health issues in order for us to heal them in a different way. Of course, we've gained a lot of knowledge and wisdom since we encountered our health conditions the first time around. We have a different understanding of why those energy blockages are still trapped in our cellular memory. And we have a lot of work to do to dive into the psychological and emotional, spiritual, I guess, battlefield on why we're still holding on to some of our health issues. Now, some will say, especially in this spiritual community, that we have the power to heal our body and that, none of us need to be in a state of dis-ease. And although that is true, sometimes it can only take you so far. Many people don't want to admit that part of our soul contract for some of us is suffering with a certain health condition, because that is the only time that we could have had our spiritual awakening, the only time that we had to put the energy, the focus, the love, the nurturing onto ourselves to find ourselves through the struggle of a deteriorated physical form. In my own experience, I will say that I can only heal myself so much. There is a certain point where I feel like the human body is dense and weighted and carbon-based. It's a biological time bomb of destruction for a reason. That's not to say that there isn't hope, that we can't heal certain parts of our condition, but we do have to realize that we do have to heal within limits. And if our health condition is contributing to our overall soul contract, then, there is an acceptance and awareness that we have to have that, maybe we aren't supposed to heal certain aspects of our physical form in this lifetime. But either way, those activations are coming up for acknowledgement, for renewal once again. And we are going to face them. Again, we're having a flare because of this fire energy. A lot of that is being manifested by temperature fluctuations. You may be running very, very cold and then very, very hot. Many of us are running on the hot side of things, overwhelmed by heat, overwhelmed, just feeling on fire like you can't breathe, sweaty palms, sweaty feet, sweaty overall body, but leading to a feeling of feeling claustrophobic with clothes on, almost like you can't move, you can't breathe, with socks on, with pants on, with shirts on. Let me remind you that our skin is the largest organ of our bodies. It is the most receptive tool that we have in our divine computer systems. And sometimes you need to let it all go. You need to make sure that you're not suffocating your physical body and blocking the receptors that is your skin. You need to make sure that you are allowing your physical body time to breathe. So if you are feeling that claustrophobic, too much clothes on, can't breathe sensation, please just strip down. Do it in a safe manner so that you don't get the cops called on you, but definitely find a safe space and just strip it down. Let that body breathe. The throat chakra is going to be a main source, mostly because our third eye, that head pressure is going off. We do have a lot of things that we need to express with Mercury moving into Aries. We still have that thirst for knowledge. We still have that thirst for experience, for starting fresh, to be reborn, to jump into brand new beginnings. But our throats can also be sore or swollen. You might actually wake up and think that you're getting a cold. Again, a cold, the physical symptoms of a cold is almost parallel to the Ascension symptoms, the Ascension flu, if you will. And if you're biting your tongue, if you're holding in your truth, if you're hesitant to actually speak and express yourself thoroughly, you will have a burning sensation, a sensation of needing to clear your throat, a lump in your throat like you're going to cry, that feeling like you want to scream. You might see this manifest in broken, cracked lips, in sore teeth, sore gums, sore jaws. You are definitely going to be feeling the pressure in the headspace, in your neck, in your throat. Again, we're being encouraged to speak our truth, but many of us aren't confident enough to do so. So we are going to see that energetic blockage really manifest in the physical form. For many of us, we do feel the shift. We do feel like the weight has been lifted a little bit. May not have the kind of clarity we were hoping for at this moment, but it's coming. But the weight has been lifted off of our chest. And a lot of that comes with the spiritual aha understanding that Neptune bumping into the true node is going to provide us with. And with that weight being lifted, we're going to see that we're breathing differently again. And many of us were struggling to breathe through Pisces season with all that pressure on our chest, on our heart space. Now we have to become a little bit more conscious of our breath. And again, we're in Aries season. We're all fired up. Fire and oxygen can be beautiful if it's balanced, but short, shallow breathing can make you dizzy, cannot bring enough oxygen into your physical body, can really put you at a deficit. And we really have to focus not only on energy management, but energy management is very connected to your breathing techniques. Breath is life. Air is life. That's how we bring it in. That's how we keep ourselves alive. We want to expand the cavity in our lungs and our chest so that we're able to bring more air, more life in. And because of that, we are going to maybe suffer a cough, maybe see congestions. That is just an indication that there is an energy blockage there, that we do have to adopt a different way of managing our air coming in as we speak, going out. We do have to shift the way that our physical body operates under this new energetic forum, under this energetic understanding, under this energetic upgrade, if you will. Like I said, many of us still lost, still desire for clarity, still confused on the path. I understand it. You got to be patient. It's hard to have patience. We're in fire season. Aries is not known for patience at all. And this can lead to ants in your pants and restlessness and an impulsivity to just act just for the sake of acting, which again, I'm going to caution you against. That's not what we want to do here. That is just bad vibes, bad juju, not the way that we want to build strong, more mature foundations for ourselves to grow upon moving forward. The heart activations are going to be heavy this week. I do feel like it is going to be profound in shifting our heart space from the fear of rejection and abandonment and independence and loneliness that we are currently struggling with, because of course Venus is off dancing to the beat of her own drum. She's being reminded of the realizations that she had while she was retrograde, but she's still not ready to put them into form. But her bumping into Saturn this week is a karmic reignition, if you will, of where it is that she's got to boss up. She's got to put her big girl panties on. She's got to do what is necessary in order to reorganize and restructure the physical circumstances that will free her to embody the wants, needs, and desires that she needs within herself, within the partnerships, within the realm of her physical circumstances that she needs to start living in. And in order to do so, she needs to disconnect from the past. But of course, letting go of things, purging, cleansing, doesn't feel good, has a huge heart activation. This comes with rapid hearts, like brokenheartedness, a swelling of the heart in all the good ways. We're definitely going to be emotionally activated. And it's going to feel strange because Venus is in a sign in Aquarius that does not want to deal with emotions, that wants to be emotionally detached, that longs for connection, longs for intimacy, longs for that partnership role in a soulmate in a twin flame, but has no want, need, or desire to do anything in the here and now to actually bridge the gap from where it is that she's at, off in La La Land, to where it is that she wants to be in those types of relationships. So it is going to feel like you're being torn, like your heart's being torn apart, so to speak, in one way or another, in order to bring attention to where it is that you're overly attached to letting things go of the past in order to free yourself up, give yourself the space to actually have the space to build the new qualities and characteristics that your heart knows that you need in order to create a reality of love and alignment, not only within yourself, but within the individuals that you choose to share your life with. So expect there to be a lot of love issues, romance issues, passion issues, sexual urges. We are definitely just all over the place. But again, we want, need, and desire connection and intimacy so freaking bad because that is our natural nature. But Venus is off in Aquarius that wants nothing to do with that. We just want to be free. We want to be independent. You know, we want a convenient relationship, a convenient love. Well, guess what? You can't have both. So this is the universe's way of showing us the extreme polarized point of view of what it is that we actually want, need, and desire in our raw, authentic self, and what it is that we currently think that we want, need, and desire because of our egoic self being very fearful and insecure of abandonment and rejection if we do put ourselves out there in the way that our heart and soul is inspiring us to do. And so we have this conflict, and it's taking place in the battleground of our heart chakra. So guys, I think that's all that I want to cover this week. I know that that was kind of all over the place and a little bit blasted from here, there, and everywhere else, but hopefully it was helpful. I know it was long. I am going to put some chapter timelines in this video. I will probably start doing that moving forward. So you can look for the timeline for the specific part that you're actually looking for. We'll probably break it up in like this, last week review, this week forecast, story time, and then the actual bulk of the Ascension symptoms themselves. For easy access, because again, you may need to revisit the Ascension symptom list a couple of times throughout the week, especially if you find yourself in a situation where your physical body is sending you a sign and signal that is putting you in a fearful state, because of course that's the last thing that we want to do. You might need to come back and visit this list and remind yourself and validate for yourself that there's no need to be fearful, that this too is a sign, a symbol, an activation, a trigger to let us know that we are exactly where it is that we need to be, aligned with the cosmic universal energies that are coming in for us right now, upgrading our software system, preparing us for this next chapter. So of course, I want to thank you for joining in. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I send you nothing but love. And of course, we'll talk to you soon.